What time is it?
It's time for the words of the oracles.
For today's podcast on the words of the oracles, I do want us to talk a little bit about what happened in the Fury fight. And we call it the Fury fight and not the Wilder fight because...
Straight dominated.
Yeah, he straight
Wasn't even
handled
close.
Wilder.
Yeah.
All right, now, you were there.
Right.
You weren't there, so this is going to be hard for you to comment on.
I saw highlights.
Okay, so the first round, I mean, we're watching him. He comes out, you know, Fury comes out on a throne. He's being carried out by women. It was pretty epic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like WWF style.
I think he came out to a Patsy Cline song.
Yeah, dude.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It was
Good call.
really,
Yeah,
really bad A.
It was pretty cool. And then
He did like the pose with the robe. It was like, I thought that was pretty
Wilder
cool.
came out with this costume that was awesome. He looked like something straight out of Game of Thrones, like the King of the North, the Zombie King or whatever.
He was like Black Panther version of that.
Yeah, he looked pretty
'Cause
scary.
It had like the purple, yeah.
It was all diamonds, it was all sparkly, but it was
yeah.
like a dark sparkly. It was pretty cool. Anyways, you were there for the fights. He shows up, and what happens in the first round? I mean, they get going.
I mean, it wasn't even close. He was hitting him with jabs. He just looked like he was not ready, scared even.
So the first
And I
round,
was worried.
that's what I thought. I mean, I was rooting for him. I'd bet against him, but I was rooting for him.
Right.
And I was like, dude, Wilder doesn't belong in this ring.
No.
And they'd already fought. I mean, for those of you guys who don't know what had happened, Wilder and Fury had already fought before. Wilder has an undefeated record. 42 fights, 40 of them are knockouts. He had one tie with Fury the fight before.
Dang.
Yeah.
And he
I don't
goes
think
in.
that's ever been done either. Like that many knockouts.
No, he had the highest knockout percentage in the history of boxing.
Yeah.
Guys
Which is
just
crazy.
knocking
And
dudes
he
out.
did, in the first fight with Fury, he did pretty much knocked him out. Fury was like dead for a few seconds
In
and
the
then
12th
just
round. Yeah.
popped back up. And that's what resulted in the draw.
And that's why I thought Fury was going to win, because I thought, man, even if Wilder knocks him out, I thought there was a good chance he would.
Yeah.
Fury's already showed that he can get back up.
He's
got that fury.
He's got that it in here.
Yeah, so he gets up. Anyways, first round, Wilder already looked like he didn't belong in the ring, and it was crazy to see. And then the second round, he didn't look like he belonged in the ring. Fury dominated him. Everything Fury wanted to do in that fight, he did. He just picked him apart, put his weight on him, and there was only a handful of decent punches Wilder threw the entire fight. Third round,
you mentioned the weight. That was one thing we were talking about because he outweighed him, what, 40 pounds?
Yeah, I think
Wilder
so.
did?
Yeah, and there was a ton
Fury
of
outweighed Wilder 40 pounds. Yeah,
there was a ton of times Wilder was trying to dodge the jab, so he'd come in, wrap him up, and Fury would just lay on him.
Intentionally drop his weight on him.
Yeah.
It was a smart way of fighting. He'd put his weight on Wilder to wear him out. Anyways,
And it worked.
Yeah, everything Fury was doing was working. So this is what the words of the oracles is going in this direction. Third round, Wilder gets his eardrum broke. Pretty nasty. He's bleeding at the end of the round. And by the seventh round, he's lost his equilibrium. He has no fight left. He's just hanging in there. And you got to give him credit. The guy was hanging in there taking a beating like a man. Wow. But he was done. And I thought his corner wisely threw in the towel.
Right.
So here's the reason why I'm bringing this up as part of the words of the oracle. One of the things that we want to do on this podcast is prepare you guys for the summer. And during the summer, train you guys as the summer's going along with things that are happening in real time. Right now, for everybody in the company, that summer sells is looming on the horizon. It's like Fury on the horizon. Tyson Fury waiting for you to step into the ring. And I'm certain that Wilder had done a lot of things to train getting ready for that fight.
Oh, yeah.
He was in the gym.
Definitely.
He was doing it. Of course he was. I mean, this is going to be in front of millions
his
and millions
job.
of people. It's his job. But there were some things he wasn't doing. And there were some battles, I guarantee, that he wasn't conquering in his head. He probably was doing everything physically. He was probably in good shape. But there was something in his head. You saw it in the first round. He was scared. He had lost a battle already before he even got in that ring.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And I remember Mike Tyson talking about how he knew he was going to win every fight before the fight even started. He'd get in the ring. You ever hear him talk about this? And he'd just be looking at these guys and he'd say, that's when I knew I beat him, was when they would look away. There was something that happened like that with Wilder where he had already, he flinched. He'd already lost the fight, and then it was just a matter of time before everything was wrapped up.
Yeah.
The same thing's going to happen to you guys during the summer. If you're not preparing yourself right now for that fight, you guys are going to get rolled up. You're going to start getting hit, and the summer is going to implement its strategy against you, and you're not going to be ready for it, and you're going to end up looking like Wilder with a busted eardrum, punch drunk, your corner's throwing in the towel, or maybe you make it to the final 12th round, but you really haven't achieved your potential. There's a couple things I wanted to make a point on this. Is Melvin J. Ballard wrote once, the greatest conflict that any man or woman will ever have will be the battle that is had with self.
I like that.
And if you want another witness to that, Kendrick Lamar said, I always thought it was me against the world. Shout out to Tupac. Until one day I realized it was me against myself. There was something that happened with Wilder that he'd lost a battle within himself. And because he lost some internal battles before the fight, he ended up losing externally in front of millions of people. And the same thing's going to happen this summer with you guys if you're not ready for this. So, in that vein, I want to ask you guys, both of you guys, what is it that you guys are doing or would recommend to these guys out there, especially the new reps, but not even new reps. I mean, Wilder was a second-round fighter with Fury. He was going in, you could say, a second summer against Fury and got rolled up. So what would you say to guys right now, experienced to inexperienced, they can do to get ready for the summer, for the Fury fight coming their way?
Well, I thought that was all very well said, and it is a battle with yourself. And you can't always win. And so at the end of the summer, I mean, I would say during the summer, give it your all, put everything on the line. And that way at the end, because what Wilder did, he was making excuses after this fight about his extravagant suit.
So it was too heavy?
Overweighing him, and he came in with not fresh legs.
That was embarrassing.
Yeah.
I thought it was embarrassing.
I mean, just take your loss. He did stay in the fight and take his beatings, which I was, proud of that. But afterwards, you can't make excuses, and I think it applies to the summer. Don't make any excuses. Give it everything you got, so at the end of the summer, win or lose, you can be proud of the effort you put in and the experiences you've had. And
you did that, Buck. You did that every summer.
Oh, yeah,
How many summers did you
Because I wasn't one of the best sales reps. You know this.
You were one. Well, you were rough at the beginning. There's no question.
Very
you were
rough.
definitely very good at the end.
Yeah, but I felt like I gave my all, and I could look back on that and be proud. So
You did how many
that's what I would
summers?
recommend.
5?
6.
He closed a lot of sales with that thong.
Dang. Yeah,
That's right.
He loved
Especially in
it.
Albuquerque.
And you loved every summer,
Oh, yeah.
especially at
loved
the
it.
end in August.
We had a good time. We had a very good time.
How did you prepare, though, for the summer?
Just reading the manual, just staying in a good place mentally. That's my thing. I can get lost and frustrated very easily. So if I could just work on staying in a good place and positive, I could fight through anything.
Nice.
I'm Jake Buck Nasty, baby.
The Buck Nast.
Byron, what'd you do?
Well, I would recommend doing preseason cells. Just get some cells under your belt. All of your preseason cells count towards your summer numbers for the reps. So it definitely helps you financially and definitely hitting retroactive levels. But just getting the monkey off your back as far as knocking doors, and even if you've sold before, just getting out and getting into the rhythm again. I remember, so I went to BYU, and I remember going out and selling the week before finals. So this was in April, before we went out. And this was my 4th summer selling, and sold 30 that week. But most of the ones that I had going out that week, this is in Utah, in April, mid-April, so it's still a little bit chilly.
Yeah.
We had a snowstorm. We ended up getting like 3 feet of snow, and all of my accounts got serviced. Like, I don't even know how this happened.
Gabe Early.
Shout out to
Yeah,
that tech.
Yeah, dude, it was,
Nice.
From the trifecta, this guy knows what it takes.
So I wouldn't have the excuse, well, it's too cold, it's raining. You know what, just get out, get the cells going, get some cells under your belt, and get comfortable with selling before the summer even really, truly begins. I think that will help you out immensely.
Okay.
It's crazy how much easier it gets once you just get out there.
Correct.
Like, that's the hardest
Just
part.
open the door.
Getting out of the car. So get out of your cars, guys.
Okay, my words, final part, I would say in conjunction with that, with what has been shared, get some preseason cells under your belts, get ready for the fight, be prepared that you're going to get rocked when you get out there, and you got to be ready to lay it so you don't have any excuses online. You're not saying something stupid at the end like, oh, my costume was too heavy or something like that.
Nobody was home.
Yeah, nobody was home.
This neighborhood sucks.
I don't know the guy's name that won or has the record right now. I just listened to the podcast with him, so I should remember his name, but he did he biked around Iceland. The road around Iceland, it's like 900 miles that he biked.
Really?
Yeah, and it's in this big race, and it's almost always a relay, but he did the whole thing by himself, beat all the relays, got the record.
Oh, wow.
So he would go out when it was really cold, when it was really rainy. He was getting ready for what it'd be like in Iceland when the wind was hitting hard. He would make sure he was right on the worst days. He'd make sure he was soaked, riding hundreds of miles, so that when it happened in Iceland, when the rains hit, he wasn't surprised. In that train of thought, so he wins. He's the number one guy. He has the record. He's world famous. He was already a famous guy before, but this even made him more renowned for having done this. In that regard, what I would recommend is something I think is so important in general for life, a way to live your life, is to find something that you do every day that is really hard for you to do. Something that makes you feel really uncomfortable. I'm not talking about things that make other people feel uncomfortable. I mean something for you that kicks your ass, that you know is going to be hard. For me, every day I go to the gym and I always try and pick something at the gym that's going to be really hard. Like I'll run on the treadmill really fast for an hour. I hate the treadmill. People say, how do you run on the treadmill? It's so miserable. I'd rather run outside. And I tell them, and I'm being honest, I run on the treadmill because it's good for my head. I hate running on the treadmill so much. It is so freaking miserable that it then becomes the best thing I can do for my soul, for myself, because I feel like if I've run on the treadmill for an hour, hard, fast, I'm not talking about some little walk, jog, I'm talking about leaving it all there, no excuses, the thing's covered in sweat, it's gross, nobody's going to touch it for the rest of the day.
Drenching the treadmills even next
Yeah,
to you.
splashed. I do, man. I splash, and I'll even tell people, like, yo, you're in the
I've
splash
seen
zone. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. I
zone.
do that because that mental training is so healthy for me. It gets me ready for the fights. So if you guys really want to take seriously this summer, start being that type of person that voluntarily chooses to pick the things that are going to be hardest for you to do in that day that you know are good for you. Obviously, it's got to be something you know is good for you, not something stupid or idiotic, but pick something that you know is going to be good for you, but it's going to be really hard. And start doing that right now. It will prepare you for when the rains come and the cold winds come and everything else from the summer. You'll already be like, oh, I know how this feels. I know how it feels to be uncomfortable. I know how it feels to be getting my butt kicked, because I'm already kicking my own butt every day before I got out here. So I guess every day, look for something that requires you to have some huevos, some balls. Do something that's hard.
Did someone say balls?
Holy shit.
I loved you in Legends of the Fall. Just remember, what you do in sales echoes in eternity.
The same way, anticipating heartbreak. And I know, and I know, and I know, I'm putting on a brave face to me.